What is up, and thank you for checking out the Cryptographics YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about the HEX T-Share and how it is the most profitable time lock ever created and why you need to learn about this. So let's get right into it here. Why does HEX have a T-Share in the first place? Well, first let's back up here for a sec and understand what exactly HEX itself is. HEX is a smart contract token on the Ethereum blockchain. HEX is designed with the same denominations as Bitcoin and to be Bitcoin 2.0 in essence. So one HEX is equal to 100 million hearts, just like one BTC or one Bitcoin is equal to 100 million Satoshis. So it can be bought, sold, and transferred on the Ethereum blockchain. The difference between HEX and Bitcoin has to do with inflation. So let's check this out. So Bitcoin does have inflation. Regardless of anyone on the internet saying that it's deflationary, it's not deflationary. Bitcoin's supply is going up until the year like around 2130 or 2040. So Bitcoin supply goes up by a decreasing percent every 4 years, with the endpoint being 21 million coins in existence. Currently, we are around the 19 million mark that has been mined. Every 4 years, the amount of BTC able to be mined gets cut in half. So think of it this way. Every 4 years, the amount of inflation that comes into supply goes down, down, down. If you were to look at it on a graph, supply is basically flatlined way up here. And in the beginning, we were going up, as far as Bitcoin's concerned, we're going up quite rapidly. I think it was in the first 3 years, the supply went up to 10 or 11 million, I believe, from basically nothing. So it's gone up a lot and it's really flattened out. And Bitcoin supply goes up through mining, which is a process where it's a way for the network to both verify and solidify transactions on the blockchain, as well as create new Bitcoin as a reward to the miners once a block has been mined. So let's unpack that a little bit. Bitcoin supply goes up through mining, which is a way for the network to both verify and solidify transactions on the blockchain. So in order for any of the transactions that are sent to actually make it into the blockchain, the miner has to solve a cryptographic puzzle, which is kind of like a reverse lottery where the numbers are known and random numbers are generated by the computer. And the first computer to generate that number gets the block reward. And when as many transactions that can go on in that time frame can roughly fit that block. And then when that reward happens, all of the other computers that are trying to make that or receive that reward, they verify that that computer got the number and that all the transactions can be verified in the block, essentially. I'm sure there's more details to it than that, but that's my understanding of it. And so that's what creates new Bitcoin. When the block is mined, the miners get a reward, and that's where the inflation comes from. So again, miners get the inflation, and often, here's the thing too, they often sell some or all of the rewards in order to pay for electricity. This isn't every single instance that this happens, but it does happen, and when it does, it hurts the price. Obviously, I can't tell you if it happens to everything or for everyone that mines. I don't think it does, but it can happen, and that can hurt the price. And it is proof of work. It is kind of like, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it is still technically proof of waste because electricity has to be drawn. There are a lot of solar alternatives that are coming out for mining for Bitcoin. So things are changing, but still, it's not a completely green solution yet. Doing a lot better job though, from what I hear recently. Those who hold Bitcoin can only acquire this inflation through purchasing more Bitcoin. Basically, like, you don't get the inflation unless you just buy more Bitcoin. Like, doesn't affect you. You don't, there's no other way to get Bitcoin than just buy it, right? So how is HEX different? HEX is not a blockchain. It's a token. Therefore, it does not require mining per se, but can choose another way via a programmable smart contract, meaning that they can basically write the code to basically pay out this inflation in any way, because there's no blocks that need to be verified there's no HEX network that needs to be verified. It's all on the Ethereum chain. Any transactions or stakes or anything go to the Ethereum chain. So the inflation can be chosen as to exactly how that gets paid out. And the developers decided to go with a system that can be thought of as proof of weight, which is also known by or as the truth engine, where users or stakers will lock up their coins within the HEX system and get paid their reward, which is the inflation, after waiting for the period of days they chose to end. So if you stake for, let's say, 360 days, at the end of that, you're going to get a payout of, and we're going to get into a little more details in a second, but essentially you're going to get a payout in HEX at the end of that for finishing your stake and seeing it to the very end. And the supply is increased by 3.69% per year without fluctuating and is paid to stakes who fulfill their time. So every year, no matter what, the supply is always going up or being increased and paid out at a total rate over the year of 3.69%. So that means if 100% of the HEX was staked, then the average amount paid to stakers, meaning everyone that was staked, would be an average, whatever the average length stake was, which if it was to continue from right now, it's about 6.2 years is the average length stake. So if that stayed where it is right now, if you did a 6.2 year stake, or you were staked at 6.2 years, your APY, or your annual percentage yield, the amount of yield from the inflation that you would get, would be 3.69% over year. If 10% of the total HEX was staked, which is very close to what it is now, the average would be around 36.9% APY. Again, annual percentage yield. It means over the year, you make 36.9% on whatever your money was. So again, roughly where it currently sits. I think it might be a little bit above that right now, but we're around there anyways. So there's no mining. There's no electricity costs for mining, obviously, because those go hand in hand. There's obviously electricity to run a computer, to go and open your wallet, to buy HEX, the whole 9 yards. But it's not like you're mining, right? We're just, like, relatively speaking, there's no electricity costs. And also, this was really cool, actually. HEX's supply is also an interesting way to basically decrease the available supply versus the total supply. Let's think of it this way. If you have 10% of the HEX that's staked, and 3.69% of the total supply is being paid to this portion right here, right? And then you have, let's say in total, because we'll say there's three categories for HEX, right? There is HEX that can be purchased, which is available supply, right? In liquidity pools or in an exchange that you could buy. There is HEX that is just held and not staked. And there is HEX that is staked. So you have these two people, the HEX that is being held and the HEX that is being staked, right? That is not available supply, right? So as the HEX gets paid to the stakers, the available supply, in essence, because it all is combined into one, but the available supply only is this much, right? As this side grows, this side is essentially shrinking, right? So the available supply of HEX is always actually going down. I mean, unless everyone just dumps their HEX, which, I mean, theoretically could happen. I don't think it will. But realistically speaking, because it's paid to the stakers, and the stakers are usually staked for, on average, 6.2 years, that inflation never sees the market. And therefore, the available supply is actually getting more rare in relation to the amount of HEX in circulation, or total HEX in circulation. So it's almost a deflationary aspect to it. I wouldn't quite say deflationary, but think of it like that. It's really interesting. So it makes it HEX more over time, available HEX more rare over time. And to make the deal even sweeter, let's now introduce the T-Share, the most rewarding and powerful mechanism in HEX. So to put it simply, a T-Share is a way for you to lock in a certain payout rate and receive that rate far into the future, up to 5,555 days, which is 15.2 years. So when it may take 2, 3, or 4 times more HEX to get the same payout per day of the inflation near the end of the stake. So what I'm saying there is, if you lock in a T-Share now, it costs 21,093 hex, which I will get to later. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save this for later. I got this all mapped out. So just carry on here. Think of it like you're sending money to your future self. And that quote's from Matty Allen. He's been saying that for quite a while now. So I'm not going to steal his quote. But think of it like that. You're essentially continuing a payout far into the future and locking that in. So, and to add to the magic, when you lock up your HEX as T-shares, you get a bonus contribution to that total from the system based on how many days you stake for, as well as how many HEX the stake has. So you get a bigger pay is better bonus and a longer pay is better bonus. So the longer pay is better is the larger bonus. But the max bonus you could get is, I think, about 3 times the amount that you put in. And what this does is it doesn't give you HEX, but when you make it, when you stake a T-share, let's say you stake 1 T-share, the system effectively locks up the value that you will get paid for of if you stake longer than 3,451 days. If you look at the second last line there, you will actually be locking in what the system will pay you for 3 T-shares, even though you only have 1. That's your bonus, right? So you'll be getting paid for 3 T-shares per day based on whatever the yield is for 3,451 days, even though you just locked up 1. So today it's like $2,600 for a T-share. Basically, you'd be getting a free $5,200 in, it's not the value that counts, but in HEX today, that would be contributed to what you'd be getting, what you'd be locking up as a T-share, which is super cool. And that's for the life of the stake. So again, this means that if you stake 3,451 days with 2 now T-shares, the system will pay you as if you had 6 T-shares for the entirety of the stake. That's crazy. For up to 15 years, you can lock that in, even when the rate is far surpassed what you paid for it originally. And I'll get to that in a second here. So like I had alluded to before, the current T-share rate in HEX, the cost of how many HEX to lock in 1 T-share is 21,093. If in 10 years of your 15-year stake, the T-share rate hits 100,000 HEX per T-share, even if you staked T-shares at 21,093 HEX, you would still be getting paid based on the amount of T-shares you locked in originally. So if you locked in 2 T-shares, right, for 21,093, now 10 years from now, it gets to 100,000 HEX, right? It would take almost, it would take like 200,000 HEX to get the same payout that you would be getting for your 2 T-shares, for your 41,186 HEX. It's crazy, right? So locking it in now, just locking that payment over the, and the thing is too, you still have 5 more years at this point in this scenario where you're 10 years into your 15-year stake, you still have 5 years of that payout that you're getting as the share rate's going up. And I'll get to how the share rate goes up soon. Don't worry. But let's continue. So this means for stakers who want to get the same payout rate as you, like I said, they have to lock up almost 5 times more HEX based on 1 T-share just to get one of your T-shares get daily. And you still have 5 more years of an increasing T-share rate while you get paid for the T-share rate you got 10 years ago. We talked about that. As more people stake their HEX, now here's something to think about too. So like I said about the percentage of people staked, as that percentage grows, the overall payout, because there's more people taking that payout, the payout you receive will go down. And that goes down for everyone across the board, nice and evenly. But it also places upward pressure on the price because the total supply is reduced. The supply is inflating. And the available supply is in a sense decreasing as well. So the price in theory should either slowly move up or could quickly go up depending on how things play out. I don't have a magic ball, so we'll have to see. Let's look at how this reward system, or basically what this reward system means for dollar value over a stake length, because this is the exciting stuff for me, at least anyways. So if you lock up 21,093 HEX today, that's 1 T-share for 5555 days, 15.2 years, and the price never moved up from where it sits right now at 10.4 cents, your $2,193 investment would turn into $15,669.31. And you can check this out too at HEXCalc, HEXCalc.net, to do the same calculations I'm doing here. You can type in your own values. You can check what the price could be for this equation if the price went up to $1, whatever you want to do. But I was just trying to be super realistic for this. Well, sort of, or just show you what it could do if the price didn't move. But if the price goes up to even 20 cents, which you've seen it do before, actually it's been there numerous times now, you would have $30,000, $30,190.97 for your original 2193 investment. So nearly 7x on your money on the first, if the price doesn't move, and nearly a 15x on your money if the price goes up to 20 cents. So you can see how powerful that is. You can't get that anywhere from any kind of bank or any kind of RSP, any 401k. Like, you just don't get that kind of return in 15 years, especially because this is considering there's zero contributions in this. There's $2,193, just like you put that in there, forget about it. 15 years later, you walk away with 7 times your money. Like, you can't get that anywhere else. Not that I've seen of. If you can, let me know, put it in the comments, because I want to find out where I can put my money if something were to go wrong with HEX. But there is one aspect to the T-Share that we do have to talk about, because you're locked in your HEX up and you got to figure out what happens if you want to end it early. So let's talk about that. The Truth Engine. If you decide to lock up your HEX as T-Shares, you cannot end the stake early without some sort of penalty. Now, this penalty does vary based on how many days you've served in your stake. It's not like there's just one penalty that's rigid, and if you end your stake, you're going to lose all your HEX. Not quite. So if you have served less than half of your stake, and you, what we call, or what is actually on the, when you're on go.hex.com, you'll see it's this little red bar. It says end stake. It's basically called EES, emergency ending your stake. And you will lose some or all of your principal based on how close to the halfway point you are. If you're like a few days into like a 3 or like a 10-year stake, you're going to do what's called nuking your HEX, and it's bye-bye. You got to make it to that, at least close to that 5-year window if you have a 10-year stake, before your principal is only going to get a little bit damaged. So after that, though, if you make it to, and this could go, I think the reason I didn't put it in here, I believe it's around the 180-day mark. If you have a 180-day stake or anything longer, you can end after the 90-day. If it's less than 180 days, then you have to do the entire stake, or your principal can be hurt. Remember that. Very important. After 180 days, or if you do 180 days stake or longer, you can utilize that halfway ending stake function and not hurt your principal. But if it's less than 180 days, you need to serve your entire stake. Otherwise, I believe your principal can be hurt. But let's continue. So if you end a stake after the halfway point, your principal investment will not be hurt, but you will only be paid the interest you have earned from days served after the halfway point. So let's say you get, you have a 5-year stake, you're 2.5 years in to the day, you serve another 2 weeks. You would get paid that 2 weeks worth of interest, and the remaining 2.5, for the most part, years of interest that you would have earned will get paid out, which we'll get to actually in a second. But you'll lose that. Essentially, you'll still get a small fraction. And if you're like very close to the end, you'll get still penalized, but you'll get most of your interest, but you won't get the entire thing. So you have to serve it right to the end in order to get the full interest that you were supposed to get. Everything else is removed. But what I was referring to was, it's not all bad, because if you're not the staker that's ending it, or if you're the staker who is just chilling and someone else ends it, it's not that bad, because the Truth Engine works in your favor too. So when someone ends their stake early, the interest gets paid out evenly based on the T-Share per user, just like the reward system, right? AKA the staker class gets 50% penalized interest. So when someone emergency ends their stake and they have like 2 million HEX that just goes by from that gets paid out evenly to all the stakers. And right now, I think there's 80 something thousand. So if you were to divide, I'm not doing the math right now, but if you divide couple million by 80,000, you could see how that would quickly go up, right? And if some people have a lot of T-shares, their payout would be higher, and some people have lower T-shares, there would the payout would be lower, but they still would get a nice bump, right? So, and something to add, the reason I said 50% there is because the other 50% goes to an origin address, which has been there from the beginning. I'm not going to cover this today. It's not a deep topic, but it's just, there's too much to cover here in this video. So I'll leave that for another day. So in summary, HEX is Bitcoin 2.0, where stakers get the inflation instead of miners. The supply is always increasing by 3.69%, which is what is paid to the stakers. When you lock up your HEX, you convert your HEX into a T-share value, or like a share, and 21,093 HEX makes up one T-share, right? You get a bonus based on how long you're staking for, and you can get upwards of 3 T-shares for the price of 1 for the length of between 3,451 days to 5,555 days, which is 15 years. So that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. So it costs you $2,000 to get almost $6,000 or almost $7,000 worth of HEX today if you do it for 15 years. And that locked T-share rate pays you for the entirety of the stake. Even if the rate rose to 50,000 HEX per T-share while you were staked, you'd still be getting your 3 T-shares that you paid 21,000 HEX for, even if it was at 50,000. So it literally is like sending money future self against Matty Allen. But so I hope you're seeing just how cool this mechanism is in HEX and how powerful it is. It's literally locking in the amount you get paid. You choose your rewards that you get. You just have to wait, right? And if you watched my other video that talks about Hedron, there is a aspect of Hedron that does alleviate this potential to be stuck. And it's a little bit of I'll just cut this part out. And if you watch that video, you'll understand why it could be really big for HEX. Some people are saying like, I'm not a big fan of it, as they think it may or may not. Their arguments are that it may or may not affect the value proposition of HEX and of delayed gratification, because that's what this is all about. But Hedron can potentially be the reason that you get out of a bind if you do a 15-year stake and you want to get out of your stake. It could allow you to sell your stake without hurting the stake or having that stake lose interest or you're losing money or whatever. So I might combine these two and talk about it in another video later. But for now, 2 videos back, I think I did a Hedron video. Go check that one out. If I can, I'll leave a link somewhere here. I don't know if I can do that yet. But yeah, so it is sending money to your future self. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I definitely had fun making it. I've been wanting to get this one to video form for a while. I have a post on my blog about the T-share and did a comparison about the RRSPs as well and showed an exact dollar figure which you can compare. I'll throw a link in the description for that blog post, and as well I'll put a link to, I think I have a couple sources in here as well, but I'll leave a link to hex.com, pulsechain.com, PulseX. And guys, if I have any other updates for you on anything that comes out, I will definitely drop them your way. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope something. If you did, please like, subscribe, share the video, maybe drop a comment, say hello, anything you think is suitable, and I would appreciate it if you come back to the next one as well. If you want to support the channel, you can go to cryptographics.com. You can check out the shop. I've got some dope hoodies that are now up on the shop, and it'd be cool if you rocked one. So thanks again for checking out the video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.